Hi everybody, it's me, Shonna, and I'm back for the last week of the month to talk about SMA Awareness Month. I'm going to start the video by talking about my own diagnosis story, and then I want to wrap up the video by talking about concerns people may have if they have a new diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy. Be right back! My diagnosis story is probably a little different than many people because type 3 SMA is the mildest, so there weren't as many clues along the way that there was something wrong with my body. It took a little bit of detective work for us to figure out what was going on. So here's the story. My parents were both carriers who were unaffected, therefore no one had any clue of anything going on. For the most part, I grew up with an average childhood, doing most things that kids do. I wasn't good at a lot of them, and I may have looked really silly doing some of them, but I did my best to keep up with the other kids. Outwardly, there weren't that many signs. I was extremely skinny, that's for sure. Did not have any muscle tone. Turns out it's because I didn't have very many muscles. But other than that, I was kind of average kid, or so we thought. I did fall down a lot. I had bumps, bruises, scrapes, and scabs on every bony part that you can land on. So my grandma, who raised me, thought that I had a balance problem. Gosh, I can't clear my throat, which I'm coming to learn it possibly is related to my SMA because as I get older, I can't cough hard enough to clear my breathing. Okay, so as I was saying, my grandma thought I had a balance problem. So she takes me to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat, who tests my balance, stand on one foot, and touch your nose, and random balance tests, to which he said,
"Her balance is fine. However, she does have a tremor, so I would probably take her to a neurologist."
So we go see a neurologist. The neurologist hammers on this. Don't let me pull, don't let me push, squeeze my fingers as hard as you can, pick up your knee, point your toe, don't let me flex your foot, don't let me point your foot, don't let me push down on your arms, don't let me pull up on your arms, don't let me push out on your arms, don't let me push in on your arms. Literally the whole range of resistance testing. I think they did some range of motion testing. He just poked and prodded me. And at the end of the meeting, he said,
"I think it's neurological, but I don't know what it is. We're going to have to do a biopsy."
Keep in mind, this was back in the Stone Age of medicine. I mean, I'm not that old, but in neurology terms, I'm pretty old. So the next step was to schedule a biopsy. Now, perhaps you guys have had something biopsied. All a biopsy is taking a small sample of tissue. A muscle biopsy, not enjoyable. It was the most traumatic thing I had ever experienced in my 5 years of age. But that's because I can still remember it clearly today. They did not put me to sleep, did not anesthetize me, knock me out in order to prevent me from remembering this. No. They gave me a local, obviously. They did not just take a scalpel and slice open my leg. But to a 5-year-old with 3 nurses and a doctor holding me down, screaming and panicking, I was certain I could feel it. My adult self, after having enough things done, realizes that even when you're numb, you still have the sensation of your skin. So you can feel motion on your skin, but you don't have a sensation of pain. So as they were doing whatever they were doing to my leg, I swore I could feel it. Other than falling down, there were a couple of things that really stood out to my grandma, that something was awry. I couldn't go down steps like other kids. I would do one leg at a time, or I would sit on each step and go down on my bum. Also, I could not get up off the floor the regular way. Children, as babies, they stick their butt up in the air and then they push themselves up and, they stand up like that. I was still doing that at 3, 4, 5 years old. And by that age, most kids have developed enough strength to stand up from a squat. I couldn't stand up from a squat. It's called the Gowers maneuver. I would stick my butt up in the air and then walk my hands up my legs until I got into an upright position. I would crawl over to furniture and push off the furniture until my legs were up under me, and then I would lift my body up. This is how I got up off the ground for as long as I could get up off the ground, which I did have a fall like 4 months ago in the laundry room, and I had to scooch my way over to the couch and heave myself up onto the couch. It's shockingly harder now than when I was a kid. Good news, I can still get up off the ground in a dire emergency when I'm by myself. I'm fully aware that one day that may not happen. So though I'm not excited to fall, I hate it, I should celebrate the small victories. Anyway, I couldn't get up off the ground the regular way, so my grandma had suspicions that she's sitting down to go downstairs, she's not squatting when she stands, she's falling down all the time, so there were many symptoms, not just falling. After the biopsy, we have to wait almost 6 months to get the results back. I had the biopsy in the summer when I wasn't in school, and I was 5, which means it was before August. So perhaps I had the biopsy in July, and we did not get the results back until December. 5 months. And then the answer came back. The prognosis was terrible for what we were being told. It was, she's going to be in a wheelchair by the time she's 12. She's going to lose all of her muscle function. She's going to need round-the-clock care. They just told us this grim prognosis. Now keep in mind, this was in the 70s when there was no ADA, there was no accessible this and adaptable that, no wheelchair vans, no curb cutouts, no nothing. You got nothing in the day. In essence, they're saying after a certain age, she's going to be wheelchair bound, meaning she can't get out of the house. You're going to have to build a ramp just to get out of your house. Then how are you going to get her in a car? And someone's going to have to carry her, and she needs a power chair, which means you cannot put that in a regular car. And there were just many more hurdles back then being told your child is deteriorating and will need a wheelchair. I think about it now and it seems so exaggerated and overblown, but we've also had a ton of progress. So I was diagnosed at 6. What did this mean for a 6-year-old? Well, I spent the majority of my childhood listening to doctors tell me everything I'm never going to be able to do. Every time I would see my neurologist, who was a really sweet man, by the way. Dr. Allen was my doctor for decades. Even though he was a pediatric neurologist, I stayed with him for as long as I could. Technically, I didn't quit him. He actually retired from practicing medicine before I would give him up. But that's another story about why do we have pediatric neurologists versus regular neurologists when I'm the same person and they've known me my whole life. Why do I have to find a new doctor? Anyway, getting off of my soapbox. When I would visit him, like twice a year, he'd be full of all the things I'm not going to be able to do. Which was weird because I would go in there and he says,
Well, you're not going to be able to roller skate.
But I do.
You do? How do you roller skate?
I push off with one foot and then I push off with the other just like everyone else.
Really? I can't even imagine how you would do that. I'd love to see it.
Okay, I'll bring my roller skates next time.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
And sure enough, I took my roller skates in and I skated around. Now keep in mind, this is when hospitals had colored tape on the floor that would tell you the different departments. So I was skating around a center chunk of offices, and then I would zoom by and he's just standing there. All of a sudden, other neurologists come out and stand up against the doorway and the wall and say,
Is that your SMA patient? Yeah.
I'd go skating by. I could skate backwards too. Want to see me do a trick? Like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. He told me I won't be able to jump rope. I jump rope. Well, I did back in the day. He's like,
How can you jump rope?
well, I flip it over and then I step one after the other, just like everyone else. I'm sure I look weird doing it. I can't hop really. I would get up on my tiptoes and do like a little tiny spring, which led to an incident once because no one with SMA apparently on the existence of humankind had ever jumped rope. My doctor was freaked out and didn't understand any of it. No advice other than you can do it, which was clearly not true. So one day after jumping rope, 3 hours at Cassie's house and 2 hours at Ann's house and just jumping rope all day. Then the streetlights come on and everybody goes in and I take my bath and I go to bed ready for school the next day. The next morning I get up out of bed and I fall to the ground. Well, that's weird. So I crawl up on the bed and I get ready to get on my feet and I fall right back down again. What is going on? So I crawl over to the room where my aunt is. I'm like, I can't get up. I don't know what's happening. I can't stand up. She freaks out. She jumps. She gets my grandma. We take me to the hospital. All of a sudden, the doctor's like,
Well, what did you do yesterday?
I played jump rope all day?
Why do you jump rope?
I told you, when I'm jumping by myself, I flip it over and I step, and I flip it over and I step. And when I'm with my girlfriends, we would tie one end to the garage door handle, and then one person would twirl and the other two people would jump.
How do you jump, though?
I mean, I step on my toes and I kind of like wiggle my hip and I jump from one foot to the other, kind of sideways-ish in this bunny hop motion. And then when I went to Anne's, we did the same thing. We tied the jump rope to the fence, and then one person would twirl, and then we would take turns jumping. And then I came home. I had dinner, which I don't think had anything to do with my legs. I took a bath for school.
Well, was the water hot?
Yeah, don't take a cold bath.
And then what did you do?
I got into my pajamas and went to bed.
And how do you sleep?
With my eyes closed.
Very funny. What position do you sleep in?
Oh, I sleep kind of like a little on my side, and then I'm on my stomach, and then the other side. I kind of rotate throughout the night.
So then you're sleeping on your stomach.
Yeah, part of the time. So he tells me the combination of overexerting the jumping, exercising the calf muscles over and over all day long and straining them, then taking a hot bath and making them a little bit gelatinous, and then going to bed and sleeping with my toes pointed. It's kind of like they cemented, locked in a pointed toe position, and therefore the muscle couldn't relax to give me flex. So he said,
all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a heating pad. We're going to put these on your calves. We're going to massage the calves and keep flexing the foot to get range of motion back. And this should cure this. And P.S. Don't jump rope all day. Don't take hot showers and don't sleep on your stomach.
Well, it's not like I could tell myself not to sleep on my stomach. We actually started having conversations about whether I needed nighttime braces to keep my feet flexed while I sleep, because you can't stop yourself from sleeping on your stomach. We eventually got to the point where we just ditched the braces because I never had this problem again, now that I knew how to care for my body. You'll never ice skate, which I did. The only thing I never tried was skiing. A, because I feel like so many able-bodied people break something skiing that I don't know that I need to do that. Secondly, I've been told you need a lot of flex in your knee and quad muscle to ski, and that is the weakest part of me. Maybe I could cross-country ski, which is like walking, and I hate walking, so yeah, no cross-country skiing. Here's another funny story. I tried water skiing. I mean, I can go tubing. I can hang on to a tube with the best of them. Lay there hopping around, water splashing you in your face. I could do that. So I tried skiing, and they gave me all the directions. Keep your ski tips up, point it out, hold on to the rope, stiffen your whole body as we start to pull you, and that'll pull you up out of the water. Great! So I grab the rope, the boat takes off, and okay, they have to circle back. Okay, hold on, I got it. So they give me the rope, and I make a naive, silly mistake. Well, this time I need to hold on to the rope. So the rope is a tube with the rope between it. So I wrap one part of the rope around this wrist, one part of the rope around that wrist, and then hold on to the bar. You see what's happening, right? So they're like, you ready? And I'm like, yep. And then the boat takes off, and it's like, boom, out of my hands again. And I'm like, rope. And they have to come back for me again. We just determined I don't have enough hand strength to hold on to a boat and a rope that's taking off. Bye! No water skiing for me either. Oh, I forgot. There's the tremor. When the ENT told my grandma, well, she has a tremor, my grandma thought, yeah, a little bit.
Had you ever noticed that?
Well, we kind of just thought she was shivering. Even as a tiny baby, her little chin would shake, so we just swaddled her. We didn't really think anything about it. So the symptoms were a tremor since I was born, but no one recognized it. The weak muscles, the falling down, the not standing up by using your hamstrings, not squatting, the sitting down on each step to go down the steps. There were small signs that eventually led us to getting my diagnosis. Now, the part of SMA diagnosis that fascinates me, frankly, is when other families are diagnosed. My first experience with this was when Dr. Allen, my pediatric neurologist, contacted me when I was 23-ish and had a 3-year-old daughter. He reached out to me and said,
I just had a diagnosis of a little 4-year-old boy, and his parents are really struggling with it. I thought it might help them if they could talk to you. Do you mind if I send along your information?
sure, no problem. What do you mean his parents are struggling?
Yeah, they're very upset about this.
Why?
That's why I want you to talk to them.
Okay, I can talk to them. I don't think they actually ever reached out to me because I don't remember a conversation with them. But it was the first time I thought, why would parents be struggling with their child having SMA? It's perfectly fine. It's inconvenient and you have to adapt and make some changes, but it's not a big deal. I'm so naive. Or just optimistic, maybe. And then I attended my first SMA conference not that long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And for whatever reason, the majority of attendees are parents with SMA kids. It's weird because these kids grow up, so there should be just as many SMA adults. Why are they not at the conference? This isn't making any sense to me, but the majority of attendees are parents to children of SMA. Now, of course, that's when I first learned that type 1 and type 2 and the severity, and that 4 years ago there wasn't any treatment, and the high rate of mortality for type 1s. So it kind of explains why there are more children with SMA than there are adults with SMA, but things have changed since Spinraza, Zolgensma, risdiplam, and you name it. Hopefully now we get just as many adult SMAers as we have children SMAers. My point is, when I went to the conference and I heard parents asking questions that seemed bizarre, I sat in the audience and thought, wait, what? Hold on, wait. They'd say things like, well, I'm concerned my child will never have a productive life. Why? Huh? Or my dream of grandchildren is over now. Wait, what? Why can't you have grandkids? I'm confused. Huh? Hearing the concerns that were not necessarily realistic was very surprising to me. Finally, near the end of the conference, a parent to an affected child read his favorite poem by somebody who talked about the sense of loss. For the first time in my life, the light bulb went off. And I thought, oh, they had a future planned for their child. They're going to be a baseball player. They're going to be a concert pianist. I don't know that life. I've never had a life where suppositions were made about me. I wasn't raised in a nuclear family with a mother and a father, so I didn't have the normal childhood experience. There were not doting parents. There were not aspirations for my greatness. There was not coaxing and prodding and nurturing. There was none of that. But once I started listening to other parents, I thought, oh, they're going through a sense of mourning. Their child is fine. Their child only knows the life they've ever known. So I'd like to talk a little bit to parents primarily who've got children who were diagnosed, or people who were newly diagnosed, but you guys kind of already know what your life is like. I'm more focused on the parents. These days, especially since so many medications are coming on, being told your child has SMA is not sorrow-worthy. Don't get yourself down in the dumps. It's gonna be fine. There are so many things your child will do. I understand that you're gonna go through a mourning phase, being sad about all the things you thought your life was gonna be, but they're not. They're living their only life they've ever known. And to them, it's fine. Honestly, I think more so the parents are influencing the way the child feels about their life. For as many flaws as my grandma had, and there were many, she kind of took this attitude like, I'm not doting on you. One day I'm not going to be here and you're going to have to know how to do this. You're going to have to figure it out. And it made me very resilient and perseverant, able to persevere. It made me think outside the box. It made me get creative and problem solving, and I did all those things. I now look at a problem and say, well, I can't do it that way, but how can I go about it another way? Furthermore, since becoming an advocate over the last several years, I started to realize not only are we dealing with Parents' sense of mourning and loss for the days of running down the slip and slide, or the going camping, horseback riding, surfing, and all the things you envisioned your child and you would do together as a family. There are ways to get around those things, and there are adaptations. There's two parts that I'm dealing with parents. One is the sense of mourning, and the other is they live as non-disabled people in a world designed for non-disabled people, where they're reinforced with the idea that disability is bad. So we've got the emotional loss of a future you think you're not going to realize, but you probably can, along with the socialized embedded stigmas and misconceptions that come with the word disability, disabled, handicapped. When a child is newly diagnosed, 99% of it is their parents coming to terms with it. 1% of it does this child understand. At 6, they said, oh, you'll be in a wheelchair by the time you're 12. I thought, well, that's like twice as long of my life. At 6, I'd already lived 6 years. I was doing fine. So I'm going to double my life before I even need to worry about it. Pfft, back burner. I got things to do right now. I didn't get my wheelchair till decades later, so even the doctors were wrong. And that leads me to another thing. Ultimately, if you have a good neurologist, your experience will be completely different than if you have, I don't want to say a bad neurologist, because they don't mean to be bad. They're just not clued in to the real world of SMA. Good and not so good will drastically affect both the parent's life, the child's life, you name it. From an experienced, seasoned SMAer, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Go to the conferences, engage with other families, talk to other SMA people, talk to people who have the same type as your child, ask questions, talk to the super duper specialists who go to these conferences and have reasonable solutions and suggestions and experience. Maybe not your town doctor who knows very little and read about it in a book. Maybe that's not the person that you seek advice from. For me, it was a huge help when social media started to explode and I could find other people who have what I have. Until I was in my late 30s, I had never met another person with SMA. In Los Angeles, I met the first woman. She also has type 3. I saw her walking into the restaurant, and for the first time I could see myself in someone else. The way she walked, her gait was a little off. She swung one leg more than the other. The weight of her big purse kind of hindered her, and that made it harder. I was like, me too. She sat down at the table, put her hands under her legs to cross her legs. I was like, oh, me too. I finally had that sense of community and that I am not the only person. Again, my advice would be connect with other families. Do what you can to provide that your child has community and connects with other people like themselves, because in the everyday world, your kid's not like everyone else. I mean, they may be curious, precocious, bratty, introvert. They may have all kinds of personality traits just like every kid. They will be like that. They just won't be treated like that by the rest of society. In a future episode, we'll talk about some of the tribulations I had growing up being a child with a disability when all of my friends were not disabled. Until then, happy SMA Awareness Month, happy SMA Pride Month. Welcome to the channel, and I hope you come back again. Bye!